Ho ho ho! Welcome to day one of the 2024 Christmas ROM Hack Fan Game Marathon. In case you've only joined the party in the last year, let me explain what this is all about. Every year since 2019, I have attempted to review a different ROM hack or fan game every day of December until Christmas. The first year, I only made it to the 14th, but every year after that, I actually pulled it off somehow. But there is a catch. I could not have done it without suggestions from the audience, so before I get into today's topic, I want to ask a favor of you all. If you have a fan game or ROM hack that you want me to talk about, this is the perfect time to recommend them to me. ROM hack discussions have been a little bit sparse on my part this year because I was a little concerned over whether or not I'd be able to fill out a marathon, so this year, more so than previous years, I'd like to ask you to leave any recommendations you may have in the comments section of this video, or any video that I put out this month. I am not just looking for ROM hacks, anything that could be considered a fan game, I want to hear about it. Also, if you had a hand in making the game yourself, don't be shy about recommending it to me, that's entirely cool. I may not get to everything, and a recommendation doesn't guarantee that I'll talk about it. It all depends on a number of factors, but that shouldn't discourage you in the future because unless I'm dead, there's always a chance that I could talk about whatever. I would tell you not to recommend things like H-Doom, but every time I say that, somebody does it anyway, so if you're gonna do that, just be aware that it's not gonna happen. And with all that out of the way, let's begin the marathon with a game called Zelda Sands of Time, which came out basically in the last couple weeks. Zelda Sands of Time is a big boy ROM hack of Ocarina of Time. I'm talking new world, new story, new power-ups, entirely new custom enemies, quality of life improvements, and better graphics. Oh boy. Everything you could ask of an OOT hack is in this game, and it's there in spades. Ocarina of Time ROM hacking has skyrocketed in scope and scale ever since the decomp was finished last year. Just talking about 2024 alone, there have been so many hacks of this game that the only way to keep up with them is to dedicate your life to it. And all of them have been doing things that seemed unthinkable just a few years ago. If you only started playing OOT mods in the last few years, you'd be forgiven for thinking that they were always this crazy, but if you told me way back in the days of Zelda's birthday that this is where we'd be at one day, I would not have believed you. When Missing Link, which was a 2-hour experience, had all this custom coding and objects, it was incredible to me, and now you see it everywhere. Sometimes it gets to a point that I worry that these things will lose their ability to surprise me, but I'm happy to say that it hasn't happened yet. One thing that really stands out about this game is the story. In this universe, Ganon has obtained the whole Triforce and conquered the land after the hero of time failed to stop him. We begin the story after he simply dies of old age, leaving behind an absolutely decrepit wasteland of garbage and smoke. The world is a destitute, steampunk-adjacent reimagining of Hyrule where everything is riddled with industrial waste and the natural world is barely clinging to life. Greed and corruption permeate every corner of the world, and soldiers are paid so little that you can actually bribe your way out of jail with only 25 rupees. There's a shady entertainment hub where people gamble away their life savings, run by the Zora, who are essentially the mob. Gorons are all arms manufacturers who are addicted to bananas. Hylians and Gerudo are directly at war with each other. People are forced to live in homeless shelters and scratch something resembling a living off of the dying world. There's even an entire story arc where Link is auctioned off as a slave and has to do industrial sweatshop labor against his will. Kinda like a more depressing take on that one chapter of Super Paper Mario. The call to adventure isn't even about stopping some evil force from taking over the world again. You're just trying to hunt for the legendary treasure that Ganon left behind with the hopes that it'll bring you fame and fortune, while the remnants of a self-destructing civilization continue their rapid deterioration and everyone around you is miserable. It's an interesting new direction because the motivations are largely selfish from the beginning. Many of the characters are depicted as selfish and cynical, like the Great Fairy who lives in a big toilet and refers to a Goron as a retard with 64 IQ. That's pretty damn mean, but I guess if I lived in a big toilet, I'd probably be saying stuff like that too. You got Ingo, who was arrested for being a drunken gambler in deep debt while his son is in prison. Even Mani, the stand-in for Navi, when asked if you can help find a poor woman's dog, she's like, "Hey, what you gonna do for me then, huh?" And she doesn't grow or change at all for the entire story. You both go through literal hell, and she's still only thinking about the money. Oh, that's why she's called Mani.
Give me your fucking money!
The atmosphere is incredible. Deep into the game, you are hit with some of the most awesome Cannibal Corpse tier hell world imagery I have ever seen in an OOT hack. This is incredible, and it fills a void that even the mainline Zeldas left open. New Zelda games are so cute and colorful that I feel like a lot of people forgot just how effective the series used to be at horror. OOT hacks have been doing an incredible job with quality of life improvements lately. This game goes further than anything I've seen so far. Pausing and unpausing is now faster than ever. It seems like such a small thing to speed up the pausing and unpausing animation, but when I paused for the first time, I was like, huh? Even the load screens, which were never that long to begin with, are snappier. Climbing a ladder or a gated wall is way faster. That shit used to take forever. The hookshot cursor now gives you an indication of whether or not you can actually stick to whatever it is you're pointing at. But my favorite thing of all is the animation for drinking milk or a potion. In the original game, it takes 5 hours to slam a beaker of milk. Now watch how long it takes in this game. Waboom, done. One of my favorite new features is the ability to swap arrows on the fly by tapping R so you don't have to pause every single time you want to swap. But easily the most genius innovation of all is the bonfires. In this game you find bonfires, and when you stand by one of them, it refills your health, milk, magic, and essential items like bombs and arrows. This means that you don't have to spend 100 years farming rupees and bombs every time you run out. And even better than that, eventually you learn a song that allows you to fast travel between some of them, which is very convenient. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. Dark Souls! One thing this game does a lot is these 2.5D sections. These are actually pretty cool and not quite as disorienting as you would expect, and the puzzles that work in 3D translate pretty seamlessly in this context. I don't think it's the first hack to do something like this, but it's done very effectively, and it's not that out of step with the official Zelda games either. The presentation is excellent, the texture work is on par with Majora's Mask, the new custom enemies and bosses are modeled and animated quite well. But my favorite detail is the bow and arrow, which now has a scope on it. This is insanely helpful. But even better than the visuals is the music, which is as rich in variety as it is in quality. They even brought in System of a Down. In terms of difficulty, a lot of the challenge is in the puzzles, which feel very different to what I've seen in other ROM hacks so far. I think they're designed to look more intimidating than they actually are, but some of them are genuinely clever, and with the addition of things like the explosive equipped boomerang, it goes to places that will challenge even people who've played the original 100 times. It's not Master Quest levels of obtuse. I mean, I was able to beat it without a walkthrough because the game is so recent that nobody's had the time to make one yet. So that should say something. There were moments where I thought maybe I broke the game or something, but then I took one more look and went, wait a minute, I'm a dumbass. The combat is pretty much the same as the original, with the exception of the new custom enemies and bosses like these armored re-deads. These are some freaky motherfuckers right here. There's also this one boss that plays completely unlike anything I've seen from a ROM hack so far. It's this jacked up Iron Knuckle who runs really fast and has no recovery frames from getting hit, so you just get your ass kicked, and Bonnie's only advice is to roll and jump out of the way, but the AoE for his attacks is so huge and the move comes out so fast that it barely does any good. Maybe a little too much like Dark Souls. Sands of Time is a ROM hack that there isn't really much else like. Even without all the custom enemies and coding and quality of life improvements, the aesthetic and world building alone would have made this a standout hack. Most OOT mods stay true to the medieval fantasy setting, so it's a breath of fresh air even just from that perspective. I'd love to see future OOT hacks go in weird directions like this, but rest assured this is definitely not the last OOT hack I'll be talking about this month. And tomorrow I'll be talking about one that I've been oddly quiet about, just as long as I don't lose track of the time. Merry Christmas, cousins!